Hello, hello, everyone. My name is Latoya, and I'm here with the podcast crew of Keep It Holy Sis. We thank y'all for joining us today. We are live right now going for, I'm so sorry. My apologies, everybody. I had a little technical difficulties there, but we're going to work through that. Okay, again, my name is Latoya. I'm here with the podcast crew, Keep It Holy Sis, and we are a Christ-centered sisterhood bringing real talk, biblical truth, and encouragement to women doing life in every stage. So today we have for you some questions that have been prepared by a lovely group of women of She Will Go Far. Dana Davis here is the visionary behind that, and I want to give her just a few seconds to tell us what She Will Go Far is.
Sure. So She Will Go Far. Just it was really an act of obedience from God a couple of years ago. As I've been in mentoring for many years, and a couple of years ago I had a conversation with some young adult women. They were kind of just looking for some answers of personal things in their life. And long story short, God impressed upon me Titus 2, which is kind of just our, not necessarily physically aged, but women who have walked with the Lord for some time who feel that they can give wisdom and practical instruction to the younger generation to do so. So She Will Go Far was birthed out of my obedience. The far is faith, action, and results. So it's a mentoring program, just to make sure I make that clear. And it starts in the fall. So go to She Will Go Far and pass it along.
Yes, thank you so much, Dana. Well, huge shout out to those ladies. They have prepared some questions for us today on the topic of So You Want to Be Married. And this is the beginning of our marriage series here. So we want you guys to join us along the way. It'll be from now up until the beginning of April. So we're going to have some insightful conversations. Again, 5 perspectives from all of us. All of us women are married. So without further ado, I would like for each of us to just introduce ourselves as normal.
Hey, ladies, Robin here. Glad you guys could join us today.
I'm Coach Marilyn. Happy to see you guys.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jackie Pugh.
And I think we should say how long we've been married, too. I'm Dana Davis, and I have been married 34 years to my high school sweetheart.
Okay. On this love weekend.
Well, ladies, once again, I'm Robin, and I have been married for 14 years to my husband.
Yeah. I am Coach Marilyn, and I've been married 22, going into the 23rd year.
And I'm Jackie, and I am going on 31 years of marriage.
Yeah. I feel like such a baby. I've been married for 2 years, and I'm Latoya once again. But hey, I love it here. I love it here. Okay, ladies, well, without further ado, I want to go ahead and jump into some of these questions. And so, all right. So Miss Jackie and Dana, since y'all have been married for y'all in the 30 years, this question is specifically for the two of you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Oh, disclaimer. If your children are watching this is going to maybe get a little R-rated. You may not want them to watch this. Okay, for 18 and up. The question is, how are you managing to keep a 30+ year relationship exciting? So we know people, from 1 to 5 years plus, it's exciting, it's new, and they both seem like they are, already in that and interesting. So how do you ladies keep your marriages interesting at this stage? And either one of you can go first.
You go first, Dana.
I'll go first. I try to just stay multifaceted in just my approach of who I am. My husband met a silly, fun girl. So I try to keep that silly, fun girl alive. I dance around the house. I say little quirky things. I try to keep it spicy and unpredictable with my hairdo. Men are visual, so I change it up a little bit. Sometimes I got my athleisure look going, and sometimes I got my, fun fashionista look going. But I also change it up in terms of just the, making sure that the maturity of who I've I believe God is just through the experiences of being a mother and a wife I've gained, I try to, be that proverbial woman who can give insight or things he haven't thought about in our business or in our personal life to him, and then I'm just a listening ear sometimes. So I try to keep it, a balance between that. I won't say well, she already gave a disclaimer, or should I say that? But no, my husband will say, yeah, you want a praying woman, but you also, want a woman that's a little spicy. I'm gonna just stay as spicy. I'm gonna keep it there.
And say a little spicy. No, that's okay. No, this is good, y'all. This is a real relatable talk. So I do
Yeah.
also want y'all to sprinkle into, because over time, I believe intimacy also changes, right? So you can definitely say what you need to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with what Dana has shared. We are in a new season. We are empty nesters, so we have an empty house. And so we are free in our house now. And so we try to just do little things to, to be fun to each other. And um, like you said, kind of keeping it spicy. We also have to work hard though, because my husband and I, just like you and your husband, Dana, we work together. So we work together, we go home together. We are really with each other a whole lot.
Right.
And so it is easy for a relationship to kind of lose the fun when you spend so much time on the business and the serious kind of stuff. But we plan more vacations, plan time away. We, a few years ago, we started dancing and we really enjoyed just putting on some music and doing some dancing, watching movies together. But I will say you have to be intentional. When you get to this stage, you do have to be intentional and put some work into it and put some thought into it. And I'll be the first to say I can do better at that as well. But yes.
Okay, great. That's really, really great. So I understand that as being, just really keeping the fun in it, finding things that you love to do together, and also just time with each other away, talking about vacations. And like Danny said, keeping it spicy. I like that. Keeping it spicy. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So moving forward here, Marilyn, this one is going to be for you. Okay. So after you have children, what changes between you and your husband in all categories? And I'm talking about daily interactions, finances, sex, et cetera, et cetera.
The number one thing that you've heard everyone say is the intent. You got to be intentional. Even though, you have children and, you have their lives and your lives, you still have to be intentional. And one of the things I've always did in my marriage is that I will put my husband first. I really will, his, what's going on with him, but my children are going to be taken care of. And that comes with, I think being structured. I'm extremely fanatical about structure. And so I think being structured, and then, even your home, even as they get to be teenagers, if they start coming in and out of your house, oh no, the house is going to be shut down at a certain time. Everybody's in at a certain time. Everybody's, in their neutral corners, as I used to say. Everybody, shut that electronics down. And, my husband and I, we're going to have that quiet time just for us. So I think you just have to be extremely intentional about what you're doing and balancing, which is hard sometimes, especially if, the kids are real active. But I think you just, like I say, the biggest thing is structure and balance in that way. Yeah.
I love that. Yep. So structure and intentional is what I heard from
Mhm.
you there. I love, love, love that. All right. Robin, I got one for you.
All righty,
This
what you
one is a
got for
good
me?
one.
Okay.
Okay. So I will say this too. Now I'm gonna give this little blurb. Now, Robin also, her and her husband do premarital counseling classes. So that's why this question is really, really good for her, because she is going to structure this in a way that I believe is not only going to be digestible, but it's going to be very useful and impactful. Okay. So the question is, how do you prepare for marriage when you don't even know who your husband is yet? So, what does like being marriage ready actually look like beyond cooking and being agreeable? Besides marriage, what practical steps did you take to position yourself for marriage? I know that was long. I'm happy to repeat it if you need me to.
That's okay. So truthfully, I'm going to come with some transparency. What prompted us to do premarital classes is the lack of the things that we did not do to prepare for our marriage properly. We have a blended family, and we learned through our personal premarital sessions, there were only 3 that did not prepare us for what we are doing now. That is the main reason why we do that. So I would suggest that even when you're dating, if you even have an inkling of an idea that you might want to be in a marriage relationship, don't wait until you get engaged to seek out some type of premarital class or counseling. That is going to put you in a position to where you can see if you're even ready for that phase of life yet. It's going to pull out all the areas that you need to be ready to handle and work through as you get married. So for us, we go through things like your spirituality, which is very important, being equally yoked. You want to find out that person's family of origins because, hey, everybody is brought up in a different household, and that family of origin thing can make or break you if you don't understand how your partner or fiance processes things or how they do things. It's different. But of course, it'll prepare you to understand how you want your marriage to look. We talk through finances, communication, we talk about roles and responsibilities, and we also talk about money and sex. All of those topics put you in a position where it can be a breaking point in your marriage. So literally sitting down with your person, whoever that is, while you're dating, and try to figure out, is this a road that we're ready to take right now? Well, let's figure it out. Go take some classes, get prepared for that. And unless you are, be transparent, because if you're not going to be truthful in the classes and the sessions, you're not doing yourself justice. That will be the time for you to put everything out on the table and allow the Lord to lead and guide you to tell you, is this the partner that you have for me? Or are we going to just pursue something different and this is not going to be for us? But my suggestion is, like I said, take some premarital classes and just to see if this is the Lord's will for you at this moment in time.
Wonderful. Y'all, I hope y'all are taking notes because that was great. So beyond
Was.
the sex and money and just, or, cooking and cleaning and what a lot of people may feel like a wife should be, putting a lot of things on the table, just saying, you need to know about their family origin. Like, do we really know what we're dealing with here? Do we know what our kids are going to have as a result of, us coming together and building a family? So I think those are really important things that you would want to know even before getting into the midst of dating, even, which is great advice. Great advice. All right. Now, Miss Jackie, I'm going to
Yes.
call on you again. Okay. So, who should single women seek wisdom from? Should that be married women only, therapists, mentors? Who do you think they should seek wisdom from?
I would say all of the above. I would say first look for marriages that inspire you. Look at people who you say, wow, it seems like they really connect with each other as husband and wife. And I would seek that out first. But I think that the women that you trust in your life, whether it's your mom or an aunt or a good friend who has had experience with marriage, whether they have a successful marriage or perhaps even divorce or marriage that just didn't go well. There's advice to be had in both areas. So I would say that the women in your life that you trust, that you feel like you can gain godly wisdom from.
That's a very good answer. So I'm just going to piggyback off of that question and say, are there any red flags that they can pick up on if they feel someone was out to harm them and giving them bad advice?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, well, I think it's important first to understand, what the qualities of a good marriage are. So, for those of you who are believers, the scriptures talk about in Galatians 5, the fruit of the spirit and the deeds of the flesh. And so there are a lot of things listed under those characteristics of our sinful nature that that you want to avoid in a marriage. Um, and so I think that if you're familiar with those, then when someone is giving you guidance and someone is giving you wisdom, that's a simple way to kind of say, I don't know about that. That sounds kind of self-centered and selfish. So I'm not sure if that's coming from the Lord or not. Um, and the Bible says to test spirits. So of course you have to have your own prayer, your own relationship with the Lord. You're going to be trusting Him ultimately to guide you to the person He has for you. And I would say you want to grow and understand what is involved in a strong godly marriage, and you want to look to people who you see those characteristics in, and avoid all others.
Boy, that is great, great advice. Thank you. All right, Dana, I got one for you. Do you think or do you believe that a soulmate is a real thing?
I think I know who sent that question in. Do I believe so? Me personally, I don't. I don't believe that soulmates is a real thing.
Mhm.
And the scripture that comes to mind is the two shall become, which means that's a future tense, right? That means that you're not there. Shall become one, of one mind and one spirit aligned with Christ. So putting that in practical terms, no, I don't think from a soulish perspective, no. But from a fleshly perspective, they didn't say something, flesh mate. Yeah, you probably you vibe, it doesn't hurt to have some common interests. But like to this day, I can't believe my husband, like if I never danced again, he would be okay with it. He's not he don't care for dancing like that. That's a flesh thing,
Yeah.
Sports was okay for me, but I think common interest it doesn't mean to say everything got to be so spiritual that there's no common interest. So we do have some common interests, but if the soul part came a little bit later, so you said, well, how did we get along? I mean, how did we even get, because we love travel, we love to just go out and eat. So there are other things that we do that we did together that brought us together when we were young. We're high school sweethearts. So, it was a lot of going to the movies, going to the beach, all fun stuff. But I think the soul mate thing comes later, over time, evolves. That's my personal opinion. When people say I found my soulmate, and I'm like, interesting.
Interesting. No, and I
Mhm.
think you put a really a new take on it for me, which is the flesh part of it, because that's kind of where that comes from, that hits like that. Is there anyone on here who does believe in a soulmate and want to refute that answer?
I would just say that I agree with Dana, and it can be kind of dangerous when you're thinking that there's just this one person out there somewhere that I gotta somehow get connected to because he's the one. Um, I think that the Lord gives us options. He says, "Hey,
Yeah.
these are the parameters. You're looking for a person who has, who looks like this in a sense. He gives us that." And I think we then can make decisions within that from
Yeah.
amongst the gentlemen that the Lord brings our way. Now, I'm not saying we know He's sovereign and He knows who that person is going to be,
Absolutely.
but I think it can get kind of dangerous when we're thinking there's just this one person, and I don't want to make the wrong decision. And but yeah. So I agree with Dana. I don't really vibe on the soul mate
The
thing.
soulmate. Yeah, yeah. I think that's so,
Mhm.
again, like I said, it hit on the flesh part for me. So it was really like, wow, that is a very interesting take on that. So
Now
thank
that
you
you
for
ask
that.
me though, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Now I would say Adrian is my soulmate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
I
I
would
mean,
say
y'all got 30
I couldn't
plus
see
years.
myself with any other person. I'm like, oh man, like Jackie said, all along, God, and it worked, and we were following God. So now I do consider him my soulmate. So
Mhm.
I confuse
Okay,
people.
That
Yeah.
takes
got
time
you.
because there are times in
does.
marriage when you start wondering, was he my son? Did I do
Well,
the right thing?
well,
Was
you
the
know
right
what?
decision?
Wait a
Mhm.
minute.
Marriage has its ups and
Absolutely.
downs. We got to
Yeah.
remember.
Correct.
It
It
Yep.
can
ebbs
get
and it
tough.
flows. It absolutely
Yes.
does. It ebbs and flows. Yes. Okay. So, Robin, back to you. A question
Yes.
here. So, how do you know if God is asking you to wait or if you need to change something in your approach?
Hmm. Okay. First of all, in the word it says that the man shall find a wife, and when he does, he finds a good thing, right? I feel like some women sometimes thinks that they are supposed to choose their husband and their spouse, and I've heard many women say, "Oh, girl, he's the one." Really? He's the one.
Mhm.
Really he's the one. And so I feel like when you talk to the Lord and you make it known to him, Lord, I want to be married. He made you, he created you. He knows exactly what you need, right? And you have your list, and everybody has the things, right? And I used to have my things. And guess what? God gave me a husband that's total opposite of pretty much everything on the list that my flesh created, because
Mhm.
he knew exactly what I needed. But I know that when you pray about it, the Lord is going to lead and direct you for me each step of the way to kind of let you know. Like, for example, when I was dating my now husband, for some strange reason, he was preparing me for that marriage. So, for example, he had me getting things in order, and I didn't know why. For example, he's like, "Well, make sure you get all your debt in order." So I'm paying off all my debt. I'm just trying to tie up loose ends because I'm being obedient to what he's instructing me to do with my own personal life. I was basically studying things in the word about what does it look like to be a godly woman and a godly wife, not knowing that he was preparing me for that season of life that was coming up. So for me, I say you need to be preparing for what that looks like, studying your word and understanding what the role of a wife is, what the role of a mother is, and the Lord will speak to you through those verses to kind of lead and guide you in the direction, and you will know, because when that man approaches you and he finds you, which is what's going to happen, the Lord is going to speak to him and let him know that. And people think it takes you 5 or 6 years to know. The Lord speaks to the person and let them know when it's the right time. And so I feel like the Lord knows the right moment in time that your paths should cross, and it's not up to anybody else to determine when that is and what that is supposed to look like. And if you are both in your word, I feel like he orchestrates it perfectly. And you will know because you're both praying and the Lord is speaking to both of you all, and you are both trying to follow what the Lord is telling you to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. That is
Yeah.
really, really good. So yeah, be in your word. And I'll just say, it gives me what's coming to mind is just really discerning, really knowing, and you just knowing to be with him in the word and follow what he's asking you to do, then your person will find you as a
Yeah.
woman.
I
So
like
okay, that's good.
I like
Go
what she
ahead.
said too, praying for your spouse.
Yeah.
Praying for your spouse. The Lord knows who he is, and just praying that he's growing in his walk with the Lord, that his character is developing, that he's maturing spiritually, and that God is preparing him for you. So,
Mhm.
if you desire to be married, begin praying, not for a
Mhm.
man who's 6 feet tall and makes this amount of money and
List.
drives this kind of car and dresses like this certain
Yeah.
kind of way, but praying for those inner qualities that are godly.
And even praying
Yes.
for your children's spouses, just
Mhm.
Yes,
you gotta
Yes.
you
Yes.
you have
yes.
got to do that. I think about that now as a mother, and someone told me that years ago, but my son had already stepped into a situation, and it's like, ugh, I missed that one. But But my daughters, then when, my friend, mentored me, and she's like, girl, you got to pray for these spouses. I couldn't, I've got these two son-in-laws that are truly like my sons. And I can remember just really praying for my daughters to find these godly men that would just love them. And I, at all times, I'm amazed at, how much the prayer worked. And then and now my son, I've started praying for his spouse, and he seems to be, settling in and finding. He's got a real nice young lady that he's dating. I'm thinking, yeah, she's a wife. She that's a wife. And he's
Yeah.
even said that. So I'm just excited about just, knowing that if you pray for your children's spouses and your grandchildren's spouses, just continue to pray for
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Latoya,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, real quick. I just want to add something to that. It's interesting because there are a lot of women, and especially younger women, and I'm not going to put an age to it because they're dating, right? And they try to make the marriage happen with the person that they're dating, not
Yeah.
even seeking the Lord to see if this is what this is supposed to be. So, what they start to do is they start to perform wifey duties without the
Mhm.
title,
Yeah.
thinking that that's going to position the man to want to marry them and to propose.
Yeah.
Been there,
Yeah.
done that. That does not work. That is not
Mhm.
godly. That is you trying to force a situation. And so I tell all my younger ladies, I'm like, ladies, if you're performing, marriage duties without the title, this is all wrong because now you're trying to force something. So we sometimes, our flesh allows us to do the things, and we do sometimes too much because we're trying to force the man to be in that marriage because that's what we want, because we think, like I said, and it's out of order, he's the one, but he might not think that you're the one. So we kind of
Yeah.
step over our boundaries sometimes, trying to force it to happen.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it's designed to be.
Yeah, no, that's really, really, really good. And it's also a good segue too. So Marilyn, this one is for you. Um, how do you keep your standards high without becoming guarded and hardened?
them.
Hmm.
There's just one standard, and that's God's standard. So
It's
my
true.
thing, that's the top standard, to where, that man's got to first love God. And I can
Yeah.
remember, when I first met my husband, and we were friends at the time, and that's one of the things he asked me that. He goes, "So what do you look for in a man?" And I said, he gotta get past God. I said he gotta love God first, because if he doesn't, he can't love me properly. So I said, if that's the question, the first question, and he doesn't know the Lord, there's nothing. What can this man do for me?
Yeah.
And at the time, I remember him, just kind of had a puzzled look, and he never spoke about it again. And and I'm saying, okay, and at the time we weren't dating and we weren't an item, but I think he was trying to find out where he fit in the category of what I saw in a man. And so the rest is history.
The rest is
So,
history.
yes.
Okay.
I want to add to that too. What
Yes,
does it
good,
look
Dana. I
like?
wanted you to speak.
Well, I just want to add, because I say that to my daughters all the time too. You got to love God. But one time someone asked me, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can look like how they are in their relationships with their family, how they're treating other people, how they make decisions. Are they a liar, or always want to finagle, or call it something cute, but it's really stealing? Are they do they, how, again, not because we know perfection, we won't reach that. None of
Yeah.
us want to
Right.
reach perfection, but
Yeah.
are they moving in that direction
Right.
and the progression of loving God, right? Are they moving that way, and how they manage their money, or the things and the principles in which they're living on, opposing to who God's character is. So
Right.
I thought that was a fair question being asked. What does that look like? Because everybody's not going to, especially, one of my children, everybody's not going to look perfect right now. So no, I
Right.
got it. But you want to at least have an understanding of how they should be moving if they love God. And are
Right.
they
Yeah.
working to grow in the areas, right? I know these days a lot of the younger generations aren't really going to church. They do a lot of online church, but what are they doing to grow in the areas that they may lack to grow in that love for God and their attributes?
Yeah.
That's really good, Dana. That is really good. Because that's just looking for again, just a more worldly perspective where it's like you got to really look at patterns. Patterns are important, especially from any person, and it really tells you about their character and if they are really aligned with God or if they're working on it. Like you said, if they are really working on it, you will see it in the fruit of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's really, really good. But Jackie, I got another one for you.
Okay.
So, how do you manage the fear of running out of time, especially when you desire marriage and children?
That's
That's a
good.
good one. Manage the fear.
Yeah, manage the fear. And
Well,
that was underlined.
yeah. You know what? If I'm speaking to a believer, I would say two things that the Bible, it talks about fear a lot, and it talks about, how we don't have to be fearful. And God's not wanting us to operate on the, oh gosh, what if I never meet somebody? What if I never get married? That's anxiousness. And he says to replace that type of anxiousness with prayer. Be anxious for nothing, the scripture says. And then I'm thinking of another passage that talks about just learning to be content in every season of life. And so this is your season as a single woman, and there's so much God wants to do for you and through you in this season of life. And if you're spun out on the anxiety of when am I going to meet my guy and when am I going to be married, then you're probably losing out on some of what God wants to do in your life right now.
That's
So
good.
again, it's just a commitment to prayer, because it's that closeness with the Lord that, that kind of keeps you reminded of his goodness, reminded that he answers prayer, that he hears your prayers. He knows the desires of your heart. You're praying for this spouse, but it keeps you kind of settled at the same time, to where you're not anxious and you're not feeling like, oh, it's never going to happen, or because that's not how God operates. That's the enemy. That's a sure sign that the enemy is trying to affect you, is trying to throw your trust off, is trying to get you off your game. That's a sure sign when you're feeling that anxiousness and anxiety. I know it's hard when you desire to be married, but to be able to surrender to the Lord enough to say, Father, I want what you want for me. You know what's best for me. This is the desire of my heart, but you know what's best for me. And I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you.
Anybody else want to add on to that?
Yeah, because if you rush into something prematurely, and to what Jackie kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, but if you're not, if you get into it and you're not ready or you're not prepared, it's kind of what she's also mentioning. It's not going to, be a fruitful or a peaceful or a gentle, some of the other fruits of the Spirit's marriage that you desire. Let me already make it clear, you're already going to have some ebbs and flows because the two are becoming one. But if you prematurely get involved and engaged, you're just going to add additional frustration to that union because you weren't ready. So I know that you really more address fear, and that's a little different. She said it right. Fear does not come from God. So prayer, I reiterate, double what she says.
Double what she says. Okay. Now, this is a question probably for me, but if anyone wants to add on to it, that is fine. The question says, for women in their 30s who haven't been in love in a while and feel behind, how do you guard your heart from hopelessness? And so this also would go in really well with the very last question that was on here. So you'll see what I mean when I'm saying what I'm saying, because I am in my 30s. I believe that maybe the focus is not correct. Because what I will always say is don't miss the mission in your singleness. Because I
Mm.
believe that God always has something for us. He always wants you to do something. And that goes back to what Jackie was saying, when you have to be content in this season.
That's
And
good.
so when you are focused on whatever the mission that God has given you, it just happens. It kind of just happens to
Mhm.
where that man does find you,
Mhm.
literally, like the husband finds favor in that wife.
Mhm.
Because literally, like just as an example, me and my husband, we are friends. We were friends first. We weren't like, trying to get with each other. I don't know if that was his plan, but we weren't trying to get with each other. He was never like weird with me or tried anything slick with me before it was just happening. But I was literally in the midst of doing what I knew God called me to do, which was to be, right there with women entrepreneurs, Black women entrepreneurs. And I was in the midst of that. I wasn't really like, oh, let me just try to find somebody. And so even though that thing grew to be something beautiful, and I absolutely love my husband, I love our marriage, all of that, but I still didn't miss the mission in while I was single. So I would just say literally shift your focus, definitely along the lines of what everyone else is saying, as far as really getting in your word, really figuring out what God has for you personally and where he's wanting you to go, and just use that discernment to really guard your heart from hopelessness, and also
Yeah.
just take captive of those thoughts, and the word
Yes.
does tell us to do that.
Yes.
Don't mentally sit there and drown and, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get married, because
Yeah.
words are powerful, and what you
Yes.
speak over your life is really what's going to manifest. So
Yes.
watch out for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I want to
That's
say is that something that I've ran across several times, and these are women of faith, the women that are, members of our church, and I can remember talking to them, and they're in your age range, and they're dating, and a couple of them have been divorced, and have children, and I can remember having this conversation twice, and they're talking about a man that they were dating, and then they had split up, and they were no longer talking, and I'm asking why, what happened, and they literally said that he was just too nice. I was just floored by that. I'm thinking, I'm confused. I said, well, I want, I need that rough neck, I like that kind of rough neck, and that always floors me when I hear women of faith say stuff like that, to where what exactly are you looking for? And then I always think about, where, God sends you this raft and he says, get on this, because I'm sending you that husband. I'm sending you that, but because you're so busy, I'm confused. I maybe
Mhm.
Latoya, you can give me some insight on, what that view is, and yeah, because I've heard several young women say that he was a bit too nice, and I just didn't that it turned them off. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that goes back to the toxic culture. So I know that word is a hot word, saying toxic, but there are literally women in my age group that love the toxicity. They literally fall in love with the arguments. They fall in love with the going through your phone and checking stuff and wanting to have arguments, create things that, I don't know, that just is a lot of mess, and I don't agree with it, and I don't like it. I think I've done enough arguing for a lifetime.
Yeah.
But that is just something that, unfortunately, that is a downplay in our millennials, that some women really do like the drama. So the things that you may see on like reality TV shows is
Yeah.
really what plays out in real life. They want someone to give them drama.
Yeah.
And they think that that's some sort of love. And sometimes that's even with abuse, like they like the fight and to come back, and the whole drawn out thing does something for them. But to me, that's just really, that's healing that needs to take place, because there is
Yeah.
nothing normal about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not something that is okay. And that could have been, how we grew up, because we were, like I said, it was like a busy time. Our parents were working. We kind of raised ourselves in a sense. Things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that some girls, women, in my age range in the millennials, because I'm a millennial. And and so that's kind of what they like. They like drama and toxicity.
Yeah. You really do
So
have to think about,
Mhm.
like Robin was saying earlier, your family of origin and what you grew up
Mhm.
in. And is that normal? And is that what God would have for you? And then you're going to have to make the choice, what kind of marriage do you want? But we
Mhm.
praise God for, churches and ministries like what Dana has, where you're giving women another perspective.
Mhm.
Sometimes women have not
Mhm.
seen a good marriage, so they
Mhm.
don't know what it
Right.
looks like. But to be able to have mentors, people speaking into your life, and people showing you and teaching you about what a godly marriage looks like should help, hopefully, would help.
Should help,
It should.
hopefully.
I want to add. Oh, sorry about that. It wasn't always like that though. So because me and Adrian were a little different. Growing up, high schoolers, we kind of. I'm not gonna say we wanted struggle love or we wanted to fight and be like, okay, I mean that you're right. When you think about it, it's kind of weird, right? But that did add a little bit of passion. I mean, we probably were fast and had, we were doing, it was a lot. But those 20s we were, all the words grinding and, with the kids, and so that was passionate for us. I think when you think about the younger culture and where they're in the building stage, so they're probably looking for some excitement. But I think the core of what we're saying is true. When you sit back and you really think about, well, why do I want to be screaming and fussing, and why would I want to be at odds?
Mhm.
It's not healthy. There probably is something going on, the inability to communicate properly or whatever.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's probably just ignorance,
Mhm.
to Marilyn's point, it's ignorance of not, so when they're saying that thug, look, I'm thinking they're thinking the
Bad
protector,
boys. They want
yeah,
The
that.
I mean,
bad boy.
Yeah.
yeah, the
Mhm.
bad boy. Cause before Adrian, I kind of like bad boy. Listen.
But you got to
I
still
kind of like.
have one that's you know what I'm saying, that is worth having though. You don't want someone that's gonna put you through the ringer. You know what I'm saying? In
Well,
any
not
kind of way.
ideally, but
In
we were
any
both
kind of
broke. So you're not talking, we didn't have no money to worry about all the kids and stuff.
way.
We were just having fun. It was just tough. But I'm just trying to kind of get into where what Marilyn's saying, trying to think, why would somebody want somebody to, they can't mean
Something is
truly
wrong.
treat them bad. I'm just thinking maybe they're thinking that projection, like what you guys said, bad boys, that a
Mhm,
little bit of that.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
yes, and honestly, that's kind of something like, when we grew up listening to like the rap music and seeing the guys that had this thuggish look, right? That we liked, and it was attractive, right? You got your baggy
mhm,
pants, you got your hat on backwards, you look nice, you got a nice haircut.
mhm.
That's what we want, that's what we're looking for, right? And so when we're like, oh well, this guy's got a tucked in shirt with some khakis, I don't know. I don't know. But
He's
why would that be
boring. He's gonna
wrong?
be boring.
What?
I want to
Yeah.
jump in there really quick, ladies, and let me say this. And I do know that that term means something different for everybody. Okay. So, for
What
example, I
term?
think bad boys.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, go
So,
ahead.
and I'm just gonna say, because I mean, you can have a husband and just like men like the woman, because I know you posed this question to Dana earlier, how, and Dana made a comment, and she said she keeps everything spicy. So you can be the man who's got the suit and tie on, but guess what? He can come home and cut the grass, fix all the
Mhm.
things in the house. When it's
Yes.
time for him to be casual, put the sports gear on, he still
Yeah.
can do those things as well.
Yes.
People just want to look at the costume that the person is wearing and judge
Mhm.
them based off of that.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes you
Uh-huh.
need to get to know the person a little bit better and see
Mhm.
all of them. I mean, because they don't really know everything.
I'm gonna
So
tell you, Robin.
people they look at you and they're like, oh, you're so pretty and you're so that. I'm more domestic than people think. I will put things together. I will get outside in the dirt. I mean, do all of the things. And so I think that when you say bad boy, it looks different for everybody, because I think my husband is a bad boy because he
Mhm.
can
Okay.
put on his suit and his tie, and we don't call nobody to fix nothing. He gonna cut the grass. And to
Right.
me, that's attractive to see him, my husband outside cutting the grass. So
I'm in
I think
agreement
it
with
looks
that.
different for everybody. But I want to talk a little bit to the point to the lady who asked the question about being older and thinking that, she's kind of fearful of not getting married. I was 40 when I walked down the aisle. Okay. And so God is so intentional about his timing. So when you are so focused on the marriage, then I think you're missing out, like Latoya said. Enjoy the space that you are in at this moment in time and pay attention to what God is trying to show you and prepare you for. Because let's be real, sometimes, like Dana said, and Sister Jackie said, you might not be ready. You think you're ready. Oh, I want to get married. And honey, you jump into that marriage and you all over the place because you thought you wanted to be married, but you weren't prepared. So take the time and allow yourself to be settled in your relationship with Christ first, because marriage is hard. Marriage is not easy, and it's not something that is a fairy tale like on the television, like social media, like you watch these love stories, and when the credits roll, oh, they're riding off in this little car. Oh, happily ever after. What happens after the credits go off? We don't know any of those things. But what I do know is if you are not focused and if you don't have God in the center of that thing, then it is not going to be successful. So spend your time figuring out, what does it look like, Lord? Prepare me, help me to be the woman you need me to be. So when you send me my husband, I will be ready for him. Okay. Don't focus on, oh, I'm about to be 35 and it's 36, 37. Honey, when it comes, I'm telling you, you won't miss a beat. You won't feel like it's 40. You're going to be in the right space and in the right time. And we're the ones that put this, we harp on time so much. Don't focus on that. Just focus on when he sends me my husband, and just be ready for that and what that looks like. I'm just saying.
Yeah, one other thing is God is also doing the work in us in the
Yes.
wait.
Yes.
So we want to be married, but are we ready to be married? And really only he knows whether or not we're ready to be married. So there might be some work that he's still doing in a young woman to prepare her for marriage. And it's important too that a young woman be thinking about what do I need to work on in my life? Are my finances together?
Okay.
Am I taking care of my temple?
Okay.
How am I handling my time? Am I growing in the Lord? All of those things that you want the man to have in place, it would behoove you to make sure that you got them things in place as well.
Right.
Yes. So we're gonna go ahead and close up our time. This has been a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Again, we want to shout out the She Will Go Far ladies. Thank you so much for your submission on those questions. They were really, really good. I did have some other questions, but we didn't even need to get to those because we pretty much had every single question answered. So again, thank you to you guys, and thank you, ladies, for your wonderful insight on here. Again, this is the Keep It Holy Sis podcast team. Make sure to check us out on all social media platforms. So for Facebook and Instagram, we are at Keep It Holy Sis, and YouTube and TikTok is at Keep It Holy Sis podcast. This podcast was So You Want to Be Married. I hope it was insightful. We love you guys. Y'all have a great rest of your holiday weekend.
Yes. Goodbye, everyone.